Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. First, sorry to the dear listeners that were impatiently waiting for this second half of the submission episode last Monday. I had the chance to record a special on Circular Biobase Europe's Info Day that was conducted last Thursday. I couldn't miss that. So, now I have reached the end of the line. The timeline, that is, naturally, and it is of course the submission episode that you are about to listen to, the second part. Submitting the Horizon Europe proposal is the last intense stretch in a marathon that has lasted for months. And it is intense. And there are many things you need to deal with that you didn't realize you had to pay attention to, together with the things that you indeed knew you had to pay attention to. I have invited Miguel Gallardo Linacero from the Spanish grants consultancy company Sustainable Innovations into the virtual podcast studio to help me run through the cacophony of things you need to be aware of when you're submitting a proposal. On top of that, we also share with you our experience on the process and give you a reality check in relation to what you can expect of chaos and stress. It became a long talk, as you can imagine, so I have divided the episode into 2 episodes. In this second half, we continue going through the rest of the proposal forms, including ethics, security, before ending up with the validation check and the actually pressing the red submission button. You need to listen to this episode if you're submitting proposals. Please enjoy. The Grant. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else about the budget?
No,
section?
but before ethics and security, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the research involved in the proposal, because this is one of the sections where I'm receiving more questions from partners.
Which one?
The section informate researchers involved in the proposal.
Yeah. You have to give that information under each partner, right?
Yeah. So this is just so this is another of the things that the European Commission guy, which is listening to us, should please note. No, that in theory, how they describe this. I'm not saying this like I have heard this in the EC webinars. This section is meant for the European Commission to take to be able to monitor a little bit the research careers of the people which is involved in the proposals, in the projects. Eventually you have to include the researchers that will be involved in the proposal, define if they are a leader of the team, if they are researchers. You will define the category A, B, C, D of the research career, give some reference, like if they have an ORCID number, Google Scholar reference, whatever it is, to give it. You should try to make it gender equal, but not cheating. You should actually try to have a gender equality in your teams. But I mean, what I mean is that they will look at that if the evaluator is looking or interested. They will look at that probably. But this is just for the European Commission to monitor. Later on, if you get funded, you will be able to again change this part. But what I wanted to say is that not all partners need to add researchers. The researchers are master thesis, PhDs, professors, and researchers themselves. So an engineer doing engineer stuff, or an administrative guy, or myself like doing business plans, I'm not a researcher. So I don't have to be there. I can leave it empty. The problem is that later on, that's what I wanted to say to the EC guy, is that in the grant management, when you are finally submitting all the information for your organization, they make you introduce researchers. So you at the end have to introduce me or one of my colleagues, which are not at all researchers, in this space. So that's what makes no sense. But otherwise, just take into consideration that probably if the evaluators are experts in the field and curious about it and know your organization, probably they will go to this table to see, okay, who are the guys which are involved.
Yeah, now if I look at this, we probably also need to mention that you have also part of the administrative form, that's publications and projects and name of infrastructure, equipment. So here, how is it? Do you go in under the individual participant? How does that work, Miguel?
Yeah. So for each one of the participant profiles, you have to enter up to 5 publications. I think that they call it achievements also. So it can be, for instance, a good service that you sell. Like it doesn't matter if I'm not a research organization, I'm a large industry. So I can put here, instead of publications, they call it achievements. So I can say, no, well, what I do is that I sell the final product that this project is about, right? Or things like that. So data sets, publications, products, services. Then you have here, of course, you have up to 5. So people will have to choose very carefully what is the information that they include. And one thing that you should take into account, you have a 500 characters limit. So when you receive the information from partners the first time, probably you won't check that you're meeting this limit. And then when you include the information, you will find out that people gave you a 1,000 character summary of the publication. So try to cross-check this before, also with a little bit of time.
Yeah, so it's what they used to. This is sort of information you would have to put this elsewhere in the project.
In H2020, yes, you had all this section 4.5, but that section has disappeared. So that's why.
Yeah,
this is the
correct.
only point.
Section 4 and 5. Yeah. So publications, old projects related to what you do here, but then also they move the equipment here.
Indeed.
I was actually not aware of this. I had colleagues that did this part of it when we submitted
this is a section that usually I think that the part of infrastructure or equipment in each one of the participants, it's a section where people usually don't pay a lot of attention to this. But I think it's important because sometimes, especially if it is large infrastructure or pilot equipment and things like that, you should make sure that it is well described here. Because also it's helping you out to reduce a little bit of a space in the technical annex itself. You can just refer back to the participant profile, infrastructure and equipment, where they can find a complete description of, I don't know, the reactor pilot equipment that they have.
Yeah. I think for the one who will be listening to this, probably you're the man, woman who will be submitting this. So you will be the one, together with a colleague, that is collecting these informations, and that's not very nice. We had a colleague in P&O that was the one to do this, dedicated for all the proposals we were doing in the department.
Well,
and it's
I hope that you invited him or her to drinks then after work.
It's a horror work to collect, because they don't, like the projects, we need them, the publications, the projects, the horrible work. Yeah. So that's what you need to know. That's horrible. No, but it's part of this information collection that is very rough when you in parallel have to develop the proposal. At the same time, you ask people to send you this information, and not every you will have lots of partners that are not very diligent when it comes to giving you the feedback with these things. Maybe because they don't even know. Oh yeah. No. Anything else?
Not for the individual partners. So with this, we would have covered everything except ethics and security, which is the final boss.
When you fill in the partners, you have a handful of things you need to take off, but you will know what kind of legal status they have when you put in the thing. But I can also see, and I forgot, links with other participants.
Usually,
is that legal links, or what is that?
Yeah, that's what I understand. But also, I understand that if you do this correctly, therefore, you will be adding one of them as an affiliated entity.
Okay.
That's at least from my perspective. When I'm including, like, for instance, if it's a big company which has several branches in several countries, then I try to make it like to centralize everything in a main beneficiary and then to have affiliated partners. I guess that this is an option in case that you don't use this affiliated entity option, and that the two partners, let's say company in Germany and the same company in Italy, that you include them as official beneficiaries, two of them, and then you can just write here the links. Just for people that maybe is new here, the main difference here is that an affiliated entity is going to depend completely on the main beneficiary who is dependent on. So the main beneficiary will be the organization in charge of transferring the funds to the affiliated entity, but also the other way around. For the European Commission, the main beneficiary is the responsible for the affiliated entity to carry out the work. So in case that it is not this arrangement, and the people from the company in Germany says, no, I don't want to know about these Italian guys. And then the Italian guys can be then a main beneficiary and just clarify this relationship maybe in this button. That's what I understand always.
All right. Be always aware out there. Know your national contact points, because they will be able to direct you to someone of their colleagues that know of the IPR, that know about these things. So this is where you can, everybody can address, if you don't have money to pay Miguel to find out.
I'm affordable.
For everybody out there. Yeah. This is service that you don't. Oh, like they can help you if you have any questions related to this. All right, let's move on to the ethics, because you have and the commission lifted their game on the gender, which is covered there, and then the ethics part. And they lifted that on the they made sort of a test run in the Green Deal calls, the last calls in 2020, and then it became standard in Horizon Europe. So first, ethics and security. That's I think it's also had them in the old Horizon 2020 proposal. Yeah. Where you had some tick box, you have some, and this is related to like stem cells, human embryonic thing, like stem cells, humans, how you work with the humans that you have if you work with children, stuff like this, animals. So that's, I don't think if you work within health, the health calls, this is where this is most relevant. And then if you're dealing with if you have like if you work with test groups we had, for instance, I remember proposals where we had we need to test food, food taste enhancers made from bio side streams, from waste streams. So there we would have to tick here that we work with test groups, human test groups, stuff like this. But you will know when you run through this table, you will be able to tick this off if you know your proposal well within 5
maybe
minutes.
Just a couple of, well, of course, in my case, I usually don't work in health related calls. So let's say that the first points, as you're saying, regarding embryonic stem cells, humans, tissues, and so on, that's usually something that I don't face. But there are some other points that people should know, maybe as a small tip. For instance, at this point 4 within the ethics and security table, which is on personal data. One of the things that I recommend people is that, if it is the first time for you, of course, is that you check the actual documentation. There is supporting documentation from the European Commission on this, because you will find some definitions. And this is like maybe something basic, but it is important. For instance, when we are talking about personal data, usually what they refer to with personal data is to sensitive information like gender, religion, sexual orientation, this type of things, especially probably for more social science related calls. So that's one of the main things. And they want to see also, of course, okay, in case that I'm exchanging data with a partner from a third country, which is not European, how I'm going to take care of this information and make sure that, of course, everything is well managed. So so I think that that's one of the, because many times people think, okay, so as I'm going to do webinars or workshops and people will register, I will have to do a very in-depth analysis of the personal data. No. In those cases, just fulfill and follow and comply with the GDPR legislation, and that's enough. You don't have to actually go more in detail. And maybe also, sorry, Nils, maybe okay. Just also as another point, when doing this ethics table and so on, think also of the real impact of your project. I mean, it is not the same if we're talking about research and innovation action with very small laboratory activities, because maybe you are not really, if you are, for instance, I don't know, working with a dangerous chemical, it's not the same, the same considerations you will have to have in a research and innovation action where you are just in the laboratory environment, that if you are talking about an innovation action where kilograms of this chemical will be produced and have to be handled. So also try to have into account this, because many times people, I feel they copy paste many times from proposal to proposal, and they don't really have in consideration the context of the proposal they are right now working.
Well, let's just run through them, because it's some of them are very health related, and then some of them are general that you will need to, everybody needs to have most will have to deal with. So the first one is human embryonic stem cells and human embryos, and that's rare that proposals that deal with them, they would know. The second category, that's humans. So does this activity involve human participants? So if you're using user groups in some sort of way and so on, you will need to indicate here, not just for medical things, also if you're like non-medical stuff, if it's social and human science research, then you need to indicate it here. For instance, the proposal I sit with here, we had to put yes, and then you have to indicate the page. Then you have the third category, that's human cells and tissue. So again, it's medical. Most would tick no. Then you have the personal data that Miguel was just mentioning, and here you need to indicate if you are, for instance, if the activities involve processing of personal data. If you're collecting data in some way into a database, then you need to indicate it here. Number 5 is animals. If the activity involves animals, and for instance, this one we had I think cows, something so we had to take vertebrates. So you here take off what kind of animal you're dealing with, and then again you put the page. Then it moves on to if you're having non-EU countries, if you're having activities outside EU. So this is nothing related to any sort of embryonic or medical. Here you have to indicate if you are working with countries outside of EU. If, for instance, will it be carried out outside EU? Does it raise any potential ethic issues and so on? Do you plan to use local resources and so on? That's that. Then you have environment, health, and safety. So here it's related to if you're doing, could it has a potential harm the environment, what you will be doing? If you're dealing with substances that can harm anything. Does it deal with endangered fauna or flora, protected areas? Number 8 is artificial intelligence, if you work with that. And then finally, number 9, other ethics issues. So it's quite broad, actually. And most will, one way or the other, tick yes in one of these. So, but that's that.
The process, because sometimes people have a lot of like doubts with this, is that you first undertake this checklist, trying to be as open as possible, of course. And if you have checked any of these boxes, is when you have to go to the second step, which is the ethics self-assessment. In the Form A itself, you have a link to that guides you directly to the ethics self-assessment. So basically, it's let's say a guide, right, from the European Commission to guide you a little bit about, okay, how should I deal with these points that are raising ethical concerns, or that might raise ethical concerns in my proposal. Just if you have ticked any of these, is when you will have to fill in these two text boxes that appear just below.
And I can reassure you, you will be panicky. Because you cannot submit your proposals without filling these in. So if you realize that you have to tick some of the boxes, yes, which most will, then you also have to produce some text for these two boxes. I have been panicky myself. But the good thing was that I was working for a big multinational, at least in Europe, company, where I could ask colleagues if they had some text I could copy paste and adjust for this. And I guess you would also have some standard texts in sustainable innovations that you would adjust
for the most common stuff. But I think that really for when you have for instance, in my case, the moment I panicked in the past was like 2 years ago. It was a proposal which was dealing at the end with toxicity assessments and things like that. So they were using these little fishes which are not really considered as, I don't know how it was that you work with the embryos of the fish, so they are not really considered yet animals and things like that. So there was a lot of ethical issues. Like, I was checking all the boxes. But the good thing is that usually when you have this type of very particular things, the partner actually performing this should have the knowledge, because maybe not in Horizon Europe proposals, but in other contexts, they will have justified this type of ethical issues. So what I would recommend is that you try to look at this table, indeed, at least 1 month, 2 weeks before, so you can detect it with time. And I would say no worries if you don't have a previous text to use in case of using animals or this very specific point of your proposal. Just try to communicate and iterate a little bit with the partner.
Yeah, it's. I would say please value this podcast episode, because you are listening to two guys who have been sitting there and panicky, and it's not a nice feeling when you sit with a 30 partner large consortium. Everybody is relying on you in this last stages of submission. Is that's, if you miss it, then it's 6 months of work that's gone. So there, here you cannot submit without having quality text here if you have something you need to say. So it's rest assured. Now we told you. So you by all means, thank us. You can thank us afterwards that we flagged this. Okay, so I when I look at the text that we put here, those are it's something that it's related to. You need to relate it. That is, so it's not just standard. The Commission wants you to actually think about it.
Yeah, but the good thing I think is that the ethics self-assessment documentation, it's already guiding you a lot, especially in the most common issues that you will detect, as the use of personal data that has to comply with the GDPR and things like that. It's quite. I think that if you have dedicated time, you will be able to easily find it.
Yeah. And I can see here, for instance, they put here, during the project, the coordinating team will develop a specific ethics management plan that will recurrently updated to ensure partners' alignment with ethics principles. So, but if you put something like this, of course, you need to make sure that you make this ethics management plan. When you do the project, and don't forget that, because the Commission will remember. No. Let's move on. Security.
Being honest with you, I have never touched this section because it is very particular.
This is if you deal with if you are writing a proposal on within the security work program or defense related things. Yeah, then you need to. Here, so you have 3 boxes that where you can take. You have EU classified information, you have misuse, and you have other security issues. So everything here is related to, for instance, a subcategory. Does this activity involve information and/or materials requiring protection against unauthorized disclosure? Here, this is something that very few proposals in the normal work programs deal with this. The security, you need to. I think I actually once wrote a proposal related to critical infrastructures, ICT software for critical infrastructures like airports, railway stations, and so on. And I think I had to that was back in Horizon 2020. And I don't remember if it looked exactly like this, but I had to tick some of these boxes, as far as I remember. So that's you need to be aware of it. So if you are writing proposals within the security, you need to deal with these boxes, of course. Yeah, that was a quick one. Other questions. You actually have a section called other questions.
That's usually always like empty, and if it is a question, it's usually very straightforward for you because it's a question completely tailored for your topic. So
I think what I have here when I look at the finished proposal, it's if it's a 2-stage call. So then they ask you if there are substantial differences compared to the stage 1 proposal. Right. So if you kind of change baseline things in the proposal you're submitting. And then you have the second one here, essential information to be provided for proposals, including clinical trials, studies, and investigations. So here we're down into clinical studies, so health, medicine, stuff like this. So that's that. That's we managed. We will. Now we went through the boxes to tick. Now, because I knew it would be long.
Yeah. I was like, no, this is going to be 30 minutes, but no.
No, because I know now. I've been doing this too long now, so I know how it is. Now, what we need to touch upon is because this is, so what is it like when you sit there and do this in real life? Yeah. So what you do here when you put all these things in, and when you when you need to submit, before you can submit, you need to validate the information that you have put into the portal. And what it does is when you try to submit, you cannot submit before you validate. So you press a button where you can validate. So that means that the system checks if the input that you have put is correct, and it's everything. So it's across all the information you put in that we have just went through. So all the participants' information, all the budget, the proposal itself, form B's. Everything we just touched upon here and now, we just went through. And if there are anything that you haven't ticked, so if you forgot to tick one of these boxes that we just went through, yes or no, it will detect it. If you have forgotten to put a contact person for partner number 7, it will, if there are anything in the information on the partner input side, it will detect it. And and it will come up with a list when you validate. So if you make the full validation check, it will make the full list there, and then you'll have to go through each of them and find them and correct them.
and it can be a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you do it at the beginning of the process, of course they are gonna be a lot. The important thing here is that errors don't allow you to submit, whereas warnings are,
Yeah.
let's say, allowed. But also the European Commission is giving you, right now I cannot think of a specific example, but sometimes you're going to submit with a warning because it's allowed and that's all. But you will have a box. I think that it's like 500 or 1,000 characters, something like that. It's not a lot of text where you can justify why you are submitting with this warning. So let's say that try not to leave any silly warnings like the fact that you haven't, fill in the information for a contact or things like that. And maybe the warnings will be just something that I'm right now. I don't know, Niels, if you come up with a specific example of a warning that you need to justify why you were.
I'm thinking a little bit because as when I think back, because I was the role I was having in P&O in our team, I was the guy that initiated the proposals. I was the one that took up the idea seat from a partner and started to build the consortium and the idea. I formed the idea of the project concept, and then the proposal writers would write. And then in the end, and I was supporting them, throughout the process when the writing started. I was supporting with the work package group meeting, stuff like this, making sure everything would flow so they could focus on writing. And then in the end, I took the role of securing that all these things were there. So I had the colleague that was collecting them, but I took the responsibility as a senior to press the button because it was a huge responsibility vis-a-vis the company earnings. So I had the response. I took that on my shoulders to do these things to make sure that everything was correct when we submitted, and I was the one pressing the button submission. So I would sit and do these things. So I remember vividly that there would be a lot, even though I had been filling in stuff. We would have more of us would have access to the my colleague that was collecting info, and the partners would take care of that, accessing the system, filling in the information. But I remember that when I did this process in the end, and I was always my policy was that I was always submitting a proposal 24 hours before the deadline. No matter where it was, no matter if it was finished or not, I would cut the last pages if they were in the process of of downscaling it to fit. You know how it is. So I would always submit it. So I would always give myself at least 24 hours where I did not have to focus on validation. You understand? So I would submit one way or the other a proposal, and then I would have a slack of 24 hours before 5 o'clock, the submission date, to the last polishing parts. No matter how horrible those last 24 hours would be, I would at least have done this. So I would sit probably 48 hours before submission or something like that. The 2 or 3 days before submission, I would start making sure that these things were correct. And I remember this. I remember that there were things where I would, oh shit, what's this? And things that because that's the thing. Now we just went through them, right? But nobody thinks of these things. Nobody really thinks of all of the things we just went through, because everybody is focused on writing the proposal, getting the budget right, budget negotiations. In this part of the process, it's very stressful. There are many things that needs to fit, like little ticks, and like in the end with all the little wheels that needs to come together. You don't actually. I always thought I don't need this now. I don't need to tick the horror, all these boxes. I don't need them. It destroys my mental health to deal with these things, and then the validation says brr. So that's the real life experience that I have from these things. That it's a system where they need the information, but stressful to get everything right.
Yeah, I would say that as much as because of that, because of your mental health, I think that it's a really important issue to have into account. As much as you can in your organization to divide the roles, and you have even if there is maybe at the end a project manager which is looking out for everything and taking care that everything is right. Try to have one people from your department, or maybe if you are in a university, from your research support office or things like that, which is taking care of this. Because I think that it is really, you can have a breakout, a meltdown, if you have to be fixing at the same time, I don't know, probably like dozens of problems in the technical annex because someone suddenly realized that something is not right in the timing, in the work packages, blah, 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 whatever is the problem in the technical annex itself. And then having to fix this ethic table that suddenly appeared, or this budget, which, so I think that it is better if you split as much as you can this type of roles.
Yeah.
Especially in these last days, because if not, that's okay. Usually when I'm writing a proposal, it's like I use the form A as the KitKat. So as just when I'm very stressed or I cannot figure out what to write or how to write something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start uploading some information in the form A, and I will use this just as, okay, I keep working, but at least it's more an automated process, and that's all. But towards the last days, I think it's better if you can split.
Yeah, you have to. And this is why I was doing this. But the thing is, we split the roles, but the thing is that in real life, there was always a colleague that turned in ill, or I had no, but really then where I suddenly had to take over content at the same time as I was supposed to do this. I have horrible experiences in the submission phase. Also because grants, like you mentioned in the beginning, presenting the company, that you select your proposals very carefully from the beginning. But in many places, also in large companies like P&O, you would have the profit push, the KPIs that each has, like that is pushing you to take a little bit more on you than you actually know is good for your own workload capacity. And everybody's talking about planning work, so you avoid these kind of things. I can reassure you, any director you would ask in P&O would say, but we do internal planning to make sure that to avoid these kind of things. But P&O, just like they would have in Sharper, like that you would also have experienced in sustainable innovations, is that you cannot avoid that sometimes, because you are a private company. Yeah, so you need to you have to, if the money doesn't fit in the end, then you need to look at, like that's how it is. So you will have situations where you are facing a very rough situation with having to submit things one man down for whatever reason, MK, like woman, man down, and you need to submit this, and you are the one that is responsible for this. Nobody else can do this. You have to do it, and that's when it's get really uncomfortable, because at the same time you have clients that expect the best from you because they pay money for it, for a prime service. But if you look yourself in the mirror as a consultant, you realize that was not, if they cannot have thought this was a prime delivery. I have done this. I have been in a place where sometimes they didn't realize those were the good ones, and sometimes they indeed realized, and then you had huge issues. Of course, you had to build trust with clients afterwards. and extremely uncomfortable, because what do you want to do? You sit with your internal issues is that you need to earn the money. You need to have the profit up. That's what you have agreed on internal meetings. This is what you need to do. And then when you look at your clients, the ends they don't meet. It's you stretch things too much. So it's I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I know what it is to be a private consultant, and I know what you go through. And this is one of the reasons why I have an immense respect for what private consultants do. And I my discourse in this podcast is that I give them a voice, because I know how rough the work is, and submitting a proposal, this part of the process, that's where it comes down to how rough it is to be a private consultant grants writer. It's very, very rough, and this is what brings people down. If you don't have a good setup of a company, I trust you have in yours.
Yeah.
I was in a department of P&O that did not. They would disagree publicly, but everybody who'd been working with me in that department, they would agree with me that it was not well. The setup was not well done, and that's how it is. And it's not blaming P&O. It's just like this. If sometimes it can end up like this. And if you don't have the right setup of managers and the right people at the senior positions, and the right setup, so to say, and chemistry in the team, then you can end up like this. And it's not really anybody's fault. I'm not going to.
There are a lot of things that can go wrong, and regarding the internal pressures, I think that one of the main reasons is that most of the companies work at the end, like their highest interest is in the success fees and so on. So at the end, when you look at the profits internally in the company, you have an enormous margin between, okay, what I can get from fixed upfront fees, which is a very small part, and then the success fees. So at the end, when you have a commercial objective and you really don't know if you will get there, or maybe you will double it because maybe you have a very nice season where you get many proposals funded and so on. So I think that's, let's say, at the bottom or the core of the center, which is maybe pressing and pushing us sometimes to get more than we can. I don't know how is the expression in English, like get more than that you can chew, right? Or something like that. So I think that's one of the main problems, but at least from our side, we always, like, we are a small team. So at the end, we want to take care of the employees and so on. So we try, like, at the end, there are always problems, of course. But we try to make sure that we have a balanced workload. The problem is when suddenly, okay, one of the colleagues goes and leaves for another company in the middle of the season and things like that, and you can just try to cope. And what I try to do in those occasions is, like, be transparent with the client, like, okay, this has happened. So we are gonna keep pushing, keep working with you. Like, when I see that they are gonna notice, I try to be honest and transparent with them. When it's maybe a proposal where maybe the how can I say, they are not demanding that much time from you and things like that, I know that they are not gonna notice. So obviously I'm not gonna throw myself rocks, right? But yeah, I think that it's a complicated issue.
It is, and it's something that I'm going to shed light on in other episodes. But it's difficult to get, because sometimes you need to reveal a little bit the business model that you're running. But I will try to get to focus on this, because the business model that grant consultancy companies are running, and how you cope with these things, because it's a rough business. It's a rough consultancy business to make a company in. So I understand the people that own these companies that put themselves in business with this, that it is a difficult place to be. And the consultants that are writing the proposals are at the end of that. And it is sometimes a very contradictory place to be, with clients that don't really want to pay, and you have to generate the invoice, and that in the end it means that it's just a lot of work for the people that has to do it. No, it's we sort of rounded other stuff here.
Definitely.
But that's because it's the consequence of why you become stressed with these things when you submit the proposal, right?
Also think that probably you are in the middle of in the case of Spain, like you're in the, that everyone goes for vacation in August, for instance. So when you are facing this type of situations, it's also the time where like all your friends or family is out for vacations, and you have to stay to complete the proposals in time for the deadline. So it's always like it seems like silly, but this type of personal context is also important, and many times the timing of the deadlines is also generating you more stress because you want to finish, because you have to go for your vacations, or you want to finish everything so you can just go out for vacations without your laptop in the backup. So
Miguel, this is not silly at all. This is actually for regulars of this podcast will know that this is one of my key criticisms of the system, is the deadline regime of having deadlines right after core holidays that we all have. So summer holidays coming, like calls, deadlines coming end August, beginning September, and beginning or even mid in January, which means that holidays are. I have had dedicated episodes on this, Miguel.
Okay.
If you go in and look on my episode list, you will find episodes focusing on this. I have a summer special where we discuss it, and I have a Christmas special where I discuss it, and I have an episode called 4-Day Working Week with a consultancy company from Cyprus that gave them a 4-day working week in the summer. And where we discuss exactly how did you manage this. So that's also a marketing for all you people out there. If you find this discussion interesting, it's something that I indeed am digging into.
Yep.
Because but it's like close to my heart. Exactly this, because it's not silly at all. It's at the core of what you put people to do, and the commission. It doesn't want to realize, or it's even worse if it doesn't care. The people who set these deadlines, you cannot set these deadlines and make a decision around this, and then it's very cold-hearted if you think that this we're gonna put it here on the 5th of January. That it means you do not understand what happens throughout Europe with people. Then you don't understand the process of proposals if you set deadlines like this. So at best, that's ignorant. That's my opinion about it. Anyways, but actually, it's something that a lot of people mentions. Yeah, the deadline regime, that what it does to people.
Indeed.
No. We are finally moving towards the end with this more opinionated. I always like to have this kind of things. Now, toughest challenge. The Grant.
Okay. So I have a couple of them probably. So one is some of the things why, as you were saying, like it is important not just to actually like submit one day before whatever version you can have, but even like to set an internal deadline. Like no, we are gonna submit and don't touch anything the day before. Why? Sometimes I have even thought about lying to partners about the deadline, just for everyone to think that that's the real deadline. But what I have trouble is with the problems with the IT system. So basically, that you submitted your application, you are so happy because everything went so well, and then finally you realize that the day after when the PDF is available to be downloaded and see the whole proposal separated, that, for instance, in the Form A partners, just one of them appears and the rest have been automated deleted. That's what the evaluators are going to receive, and probably there will be some problems. So then you have to start a weak process with the ET help desk, asking them for help. They have to receive your request for fixing it, and at the end they will fix it. But the first time that this happened to me, it was awful. It was like because that was the first time. I didn't know that could happen even. So yeah. Because also it was like the case in which us as consultancy, we created the proposal, but we were not partners. So we were the ones appearing in the Form A. Where so it was crazy, and people, of course, like I was also having like some contracts and things to be signed yet, and things like that, and people were like, no, sorry, I'm not gonna pay anything if this is not fixed. And I was like, no, this is not my fault. What this has happened, or what have I done? But finally, it worked out and it was fixed. But that I think that's the toughest or the worst experience I had in terms of, at least, of emotional shock when checking it out. Yep.
Yeah, and you know what? Also, when you submit for clients, so you're the one that has the access to the portal, but to do that, you need to have the role as coordinator. Yeah, you know this one, right? So you need to understand how you transfer this in the end. That was also my responsibility, because this was one where you did not put a junior to deal with this. Yeah, this was my responsibility to do this shift so everything is done. You do everything is fixed, everything is checked, and then in the very end, you transfer the responsibilities together with the coordinator.
Yeah.
You have to do the shift where you take yourself out and are the normal partner of your partner, or fully out of the system, and the coordinator does the last part of the you submit it for them, and then they do the final submission, so to say. And this I've been sitting and doing. It was not nice either. I had some issues there where something, like I was sitting, they were sharing the screen, so I could follow what they were doing. Then it didn't really work, I don't even remember what it was, but I remember that it took us, and he was sitting in Lebanon, because he was living, he was living in the Netherlands, and he was was doing it from there.
And I guess like the last day when the system is going so slow, running slow, and so on. What I do since this episode, I told you this stressful situation I had, is that what we do is that we add, like, especially if it is an experienced client and coordinator, we ask them to be the ones creating the proposal, and we ask them, okay, just give me access as one of the participant contacts of your organization, and then I will take care of everything. And then indeed, they just delete my contact, not my organization. Because what I experienced here is that in this case, for this proposal, my company was there as coordinator. We changed the coordinator role and we were deleted as partners, but I found out that indeed you are still there somewhere and you can appear again. So that's why since then, I just try not to ever include the consultancy as a participant and do it through the coordinator.
Yeah. And I think it's an important advice to everybody who is doing proposals on behalf of clients. If you are doing this, dear listener, if you are research organizations and you are doing this, everything, then this is not relevant for you. But if you have a consultant helping you with this, or any consultant listening to this is of course important. So first step, when you go in and register the proposal, be together with the coordinator, let them do it. Yeah, they register as coordinator. You don't go in and register as coordinator. So they will be the ones that are coordinating, and they attach you as the main contact that can work with everything in the portal, because you need the rights of the coordinator to be able to do everything we just mentioned. This is something that only you can do if you have these rights. So this is so you need these rights, and then when you at the final stages here, when you submit, you ask them to transfer the right. You take them out, take yourself out of it, and they take back the rights for the actual coordinator, and they submit the final submission. So
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think these things where these very final stages. There's something I forgot. I wanted to say I forgot it, but it's correct. You when things go wrong at this stage, this is pure panic. This is not nice. This is where you need a heart surgery afterwards. No, but it's really not nice. Yeah, it's there's so many people that are relying on you, and if there's something there that is messed up, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I even had a colleague where that was a life proposal, and he missed it. A work of 3 months, but then they the IT service, they could see in the log that he had pressed the button. So he managed to get them to take it. But this is just pure horror. It went through all the organization. Shit, this happened. It's everybody felt sorry for this guy. Because it's
when
the
these
worst
things
thing
happen,
that
like
can happen,
try to stay to have a cold mind, because if you realize that this is happening like after the submission time, or even before, like when you have like 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever it is, try to stay calm. I would say try to also reach out to a colleague which also is experienced, and let them know what is happening, and try to figure out what to do, because I think that in this case, like the stress and the panicking, it's a really bad ally, really bad friend to face with these situations, because sometimes you will realize like a simpler solution, like, okay, no worries, we can do this, we can do that. But if you just start panicking, it would be awful. And of course, then the day after the submission, you should try to plan a calm day in your office. Yeah. To recover.
No, it became a long episode, but that's how it is. But it's important for me to have these conversations, because it's only when you start digging into things you also have the real, what people can expect when they sit there. So
yeah. I think that for any newcomer, this podcast is like two traumatized soldiers coming back from war or something like that. Like.
The ambition is that at least they get a real picture of what it is, so they're not surprised.
Yeah, well, I think that we should also say that there are also like bright proposals where everything goes well and things work out correctly and so on, but that they should be prepared when it is not.
But they don't. That's the thing. So that's my point. That is, nobody tells you these things. Nobody told me. Yeah, nobody told me when I started this back in 2015, when I was a proposal writer for the first time. Nobody told me. Nobody prepared me for what I was supposed to go through. So at least now you can say, go to the grant, listen to the timeline series, and you get a realistic picture of what it is to actually prepare a full proposal, and you get all the good, the bad, you get all the tips and tricks from guests like yourself, Miguel, and from me, who tried it on my own body, and you get the realistic idea of what you can expect on your that you will be taken through, because if you know, at least then you can take the experience and the stories from us and say, okay, let's try to avoid this. Let's see if we can avoid what these guys went through, to make it just marginally more comfortable process. Oh no, Miguel, thank you so much for joining me for this. This episode is one of the last episodes, because I don't think I will do an episode on the submission, because we just did it, and
I was gonna tell you that, yeah. We already covered.
That's so now the final episode will be where I probably will have evaluators on board. So I think I'm soon finished here with the time. Thank you so much. Just a short outro here for the listeners. Thanks for listening to the end. As always, please, if you have any sympathy with what I'm doing here, please go to my website and subscribe to the email list. This is the best way you can support me, this startup podcast that's growing the email list. So please submit. You will only, people normally laugh at this, you will only receive an email once a week. It's not spamming. It's just when I release an episode. That's just how it is. That's I won't spam you with anything else but that. So that's when an episode is released. Otherwise, I keep trying to develop my website to make it whatever more functional and so on. So I have the hub there, as I keep mentioning, where I try to gather the links to webinars or to the participants portal, to B2 Match, where you can find partners and so on and so forth, and brokerage events and so on. So that's there. Yeah. Thanks again, listening to the end. Miguel, thank you for being here. Let's say goodbye to dear listeners. So bye.
Thank you. Bye.